pathways to further education and employment and independent living. And I will let Ivan take it away from here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I hear it's been an exciting morning. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to watch any of the other presentations. Once again, um, my name is Ivan Rivera. I am a Benefits to Work Program Manager at Ability 360. And if you don't know who we are an independent living center based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Um, we serve the disability community, all types of disabilities, from probably age for at least my program, 14 to 64 years old. Um, I'm very passionate about what I do because we've seen so many differences in individuals and the amount of people that have gone on to more independent living through employment. I believe there's a lot of misconceptions that surround going back to work. And I'm hoping that at least in part, this may help to help people just to better understand that they too can actually move forward. Um, and if everyone's ready, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can attempt to share my screen. I'm not always great at this, so bear with me for a moment, please. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, you're good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you for joining me. I hope that this is informative, and I'm really hoping that you take away some information and pass it on to others. You know, there's a lot of barriers when we talk about employment and individuals with disabilities. And I guess the way I'd like to start this is actually introducing some of those barriers to employment that we see within our program. One of the biggest ones are loss of healthcare benefits. And you know, that's a misconception because the only way that one would actually lose their healthcare benefits is if they've actually been employed and they would have to pay some type of copay, whether it be for access or for Medicare, or if the person becomes medically uh, able once again, which we know that our disabilities are one that unfortunately we're going to live with and deal with for the rest of our lives. So healthcare really never goes away, it just shifts. For those individuals that are on Social Security, not understanding the rules, you know, the rules, unfortunately, they are stringent. However, if one knows the rules, it's easier to navigate around it. Lack of resources. There are many resources out there. We just don't know about all of them. And I think it's important that all providers get together and better put better plans together for helping people with disabilities. And learning how some of the Social Security work incentives can help an individual to transition to work. And also, there are ways of learning how to save money while keeping your benefits. And, you know, a lot of it has to do with self advocacy and learning how to live independently. And we know that employment it's a paycheck, obviously, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. You know, self esteem and creativity, we're all creative. And I think the important part to remember about this is that just because our disabilities may limit us from doing some things, we are still very creative and we're all still very employable. And with that comes the inclusion and creating a better life for oneself and creating more opportunity, because that's pretty much what we all want. So, what I'd like to start with right now is just give you some basic idea on what SSI or Social Security income uh, means. So, Social Security income is actually based on a financial need. The federal benefit rate for this year for individuals is $914, and for couples is 1,371. Now, that's not a lot of money to live off of. And for individuals that are on SSI, and I will illustrate this throughout here, that going back to work is always, always going to give you more income than not going back to work. Now, if you see here, the resource limit for individuals on SSI is $2,000, meaning that at any given time, if the individual has more than $2,000 in the bank, their SSI can actually go away. So these are barriers that we have found through the work incentives one can actually steer around. And with SSI, normally Medicaid for the state of Arizona is called Access. It continues as long as one is eligible for SSI. So with SSI, if the cash benefit decreases to zero, you can still qualify for Medicaid. There is no premium. And if you have increased medical expenses, it may reduce the annual gross limit so you will not lose your Medicaid. There is also a Medicaid buy-in, which we will talk about, and which is actually access freedom to work. And I would like to say that access freedom to work, there's also an all-text freedom to work. And I'll give you more information about that in just a little bit. So SSI one can actually be getting it through many different areas. At age 18, there is a redetermination. One can actually also have SSI through childhood disability beneficiary. So with the redetermination, it's really important because unfortunately individuals don't realize when this is going to happen. So it's really, really important for one to start collecting information if you are the caregiver of someone that's under 18. That individual must see their doctor regularly, make sure that there's medical documentation. If the individual has an IEP or IPE, it's important that these are documented as well. Some of the work incentives for SSI. So if someone is earning a certain amount of money per month, and what's needed to be understood is how SSI counts that income. So there's a general income exclusion of $20, then the earned income exclusion of $65. Whatever is left over, it is divided by 2. That is what Social Security counts as countable earnings for the individual. That is then subtracted from the countable earnings from the SSI cash benefit, and then that equals the new amount of SSA cash benefit. Now, I want to show you an illustration because I want you to see how actually an individual would be better off working when they're on SSI. So in this scenario, I've actually used $800. Let's say you're working, you're earning $800 a month. So if you see, $800, the exclusion of $20 happens there, which gives us $780. Then the exclusion of the $65 is removed, which gives us $715. That is then divided in half, which is $357.50. At this point, because the federal benefit rate is 914, the 357.50 is deducted from that, then the new SSI benefit, cash benefit, is then $556.50. However, if you're thinking about it this way, your SSI may have gone down to 556. However, you're still earning that $800. So in fact, at the end of the month, rather than $914, you're actually having a higher income of $1,356.50. So this actually tells us that going back to work on SSI will always give you more money. Now, there are different work expenses that one can actually utilize to actually lessen that. So with this is the blind work expense. Individuals who are blind, as defined by Social Security, can deduct many of their disability related to their blindness. These may be verified by receipts that are approved by Social Security. These deductions must be paid out of pocket by the individual, meaning that if Medicaid is covering it, then it cannot be counted as a blind work expense. But look at some of the work expenses that one can actually use: uniforms, transportation, professional licenses, guide dog expenses, readers and drivers. There are trainings also, even on one's taxes. This is a very strong work incentive that one can use. Now, we talked about the inability to have more than $2,000 at any point. So, one of those accounts that can help you to lessen the resource amount that one has is an ABLE account, Achieving a Better Life Experience account. So if the individual's disability began before age 26, they are eligible to open an ABLE account. Now, one can have up to $100,000 in that account, and it will not count as a resource. This is a really, really excellent account, and we're very lucky that we haven't had it for too many years, but it finally actually came to the state of Arizona. The interesting part about this is that a lot of people think, well, so how can I spend this? Well, that's the interesting part, that because this income is not counted as a resource, and yet you can still use it for basic living expenses, housing, transportation, health and wellness, education, and training. So this is a very, very extensive account for individuals, which in fact also one can, it doesn't matter who is actually putting money into that account for its beneficiary. There's also PASS plans, Plan for Achieving Self-Support. It again here, it allows the SSI recipient to set aside income or resources for a specific work goal. The income used for expenses does not affect the SSI benefits. However, it needs to be a specific work goal, whether it be education, vocational training, starting a business, and or assistive technology, and there are more. Student earned income exclusion is yet another one that one can use. So it allows individuals under 22 who are in school at least have time to actually put away funds, and it does not affect the SSI benefit. In this case, the individual could earn up to $2,220 per month annually, $8,950. And with this, they must be in college at least 8 hours a week. Those that are in grades 7 to 12, at least 12 hours a week, or training classes from 12 to 15 hours per week. Now, post-secondary education, it needs to be understood that Social Security income, in other words, the cash benefit that one receives, is not considered income when one is talking about going to college. So normally what happens is if someone is trying to get grants or scholarships, because Social Security income is not considered income, normally they would get the highest amount for this. So if you see here, any portion of a grant, scholarship, or fellowship, or gifts that are used for tuitions or fees or educational expenses is excluded from income. As well, any portion of the grants, scholarships, or fellowships that are set aside for paying that tuition or educational expenses is a resource only if not spent. So one can actually take that amount of money, pay for books or other educational expenses, and it will not count as a resource. There are a lot of other resources that people are not aware of. Under the Higher Education Act of 1965 and or the Bureau of Indian Affairs Student Assistance Program, these are excluded from income and resources as well as all the others that you see here, Pell Grants, state student incentives. There's so many, again, resources that people just have not tapped into, obviously because not everyone knows about it. And this is what we're here to help with, to make sure that we can give you all the information so you can make an informed decision about how you want to move forward. Or even if you can move forward, because as you see here, there are many different ways to achieve further education should someone want to. So I want to discuss now SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance. Now, these two programs, the SSI and the SSDI program, they have completely different rules. So once again, we must better understand the rules so we can actually, I don't want to say use them against Social Security because that's just rude, but I can say that knowing the rules, one can actually make better decisions as to not get into trouble. One of the big differences about Social Security disability insurance that it's based on the individual's work history, or in this, just put simply, how many federal taxes has been paid into the federal system. It can also
Hey,
be,
Ivan, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if somebody has a question, do you want them to put it in the chat or do you want them to raise their hand?
you see, I can't see the chat, unfortunately.
Yeah, so just raise your hand and then we can call on you then. Or do you want
That's,
me to after the presentation to take questions?
if we can hold the questions till the end, I am more than happy to answer anything that is in the chat or that I see. Yes, please.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry.
No, thank you so much. So you can also get Social Security disability insurance through a deceased or retired parent's or spouse's work history. Childhood disability beneficiary usually happens at that age of 18 redetermination, and payments will fluctuate depending on the amount that is paid into the federal system. With this, there's a 24-month qualifying period for Medicare. However, access, more times than not, one can get access during this waiting period. Some of the work incentives, these are completely different than the work incentives for SSI. There's a 9-month trial work period. cessation grace, 36-month extended period of eligibility, impairment related work expenses, wages, subsidies, and special conditions, blind work expense, Medicare extension, and expedited reinstatement. So, with the trial work period, an individual can actually work up to 9 months. A trial work period is actually triggered by the earnings, gross earnings of $1,050. So, meaning that for at least a 9-month period, the individual can make as much money as they want to, and it does not affect their cash benefit. Now, the trial work months, and this is very confusing, 5-year rollover. So, because these trial work periods do not have to be consecutive, if someone has used 3 trial work periods, this means that after 5 years, if you haven't used all your 9 trial work periods, one of those trial work periods will fall off. So, and during this, you continue to get your full SSDI cash benefit. So after that 9-month trial work period, Social Security is going to determine if the individual is actually working at substantial gainful activity, or SGA. This is a 3-month period. It's called cessation grace. If one is actually going over that SGA, they still get their full cash benefit for another 3 months. That SGA amount for this year is $1,470. For individuals who are blind, that substantial gainful activity is $2,460. So it is quite a bit higher. Extended period of eligibility. Now, this is a safety net because, well, let me back up here. The understanding is that with the trial work period, it is just that. It's so an individual can try to go back to work, and it not affect them, or they don't get thrown off the program. And I will say that in my experience, it's very important that when an individual attempts to go back to work, that there's a certain amount of self-care that they have actually achieved. Knowing your disability, knowing how to take care of your disability, not pushing yourself to a point where you're making it or faking it till you make it. That's not productive, because we only hurt ourselves health-wise. In any case, let me continue. After the trial work period, there's a 36-month period where if an individual goes over the SGA, their cash benefit goes away, which that number is $1,470. Within that 36-month period, anytime an individual makes less than $1,470, their cash benefit comes right back to them. So that's a big safety net. That's a 3-year safety net that the individual doesn't have to worry about losing their benefits. So if the earnings drop, as I said, your SSDI cash benefit can restart. Again, during this time, Medicare continues. However, if an individual is earning over a certain amount of money, they will have to pay their monthly Medicare premium. However, there are different programs for those that are making under a certain amount of money that the state or the federal government actually covers those Medicare costs. Once again, here, you see, you're not losing your Medicare. If you're earning a substantial amount, you may have to pay your premium, but you're not losing it. So after the trial work period, in order to bring that gross amount down per month, Social Security has set in what is called impairment-related work expenses. So these are expenses that are paid out of pocket by the individual for disability-related items that reduce the monthly income that Social Security actually counts. Again, here, they may be verified by receipts by Social Security. Examples here, medication or co-payments, assistive technology, medical equipment, some transportation costs, and doctor's appointments. Wages and subsidy special conditions. Some of these may be on-the-job supports received or special conditions that are given by an employer to a third party, which may result in pay that is higher than the actual value of the service performed. Those third parties could be job coaching services. It could be extra production, extra supervision, lower productivity for individuals with disabilities, or fewer assigned tasks. Now, after the EPE or the extended period of eligibility, let's say that the individual has already gone through their EPE and then something happens to them where their disability is now preventing them from working. The expedited reinstatement allows an individual to request to be reinstated without having to go through the original application process. During this time, they receive benefits for up to 6 months during the redetermination. And this is available up to 5 years after one's benefits end. And by what I mean after one's benefits end is after the extended period of eligibility. Now, the interesting part about this is that with the redetermination process, it's important to remember that what they're trying to redetermine is this individual, do they still have a disability? And that's what they're looking at. So once again, you're not really losing unless you are medically recovered. Now, with SSDI and Medicare, that Medicare will continue after the trial work period for 93 months, meaning 7 years and 9 months. During this time, Social Security pays for Part A. After the trial work period, as I mentioned before, the beneficiary may be responsible for the Part B, but again, there are subsidy programs that are available to help with these premiums depending on one's earned income. So here we come into Access Freedom to Work, which I will tell you, I am on Access Freedom to Work myself, and I have been since about 2015. This is a Medicaid buy-in, and it provides health coverage for working individuals with disabilities who may be making too much income for regular Medicaid, or again, in our state, Access. So the eligibility requirements are that one is a citizen or qualifying citizen, age 16 to 64, determined blind or disabled, and must be working. Now, look at the amounts of money that one can actually earn and continue having their access. Talking $6,161 per month, which, look at the annual, it's over $73,000. So knowing that you can keep your Medicaid for $0 to $35 a month, that is a big work incentive. Again, that's why I'm saying you don't lose it. And as a reminder, there's not only a regular Access Freedom to Work, there's also an all-text Freedom to Work for those that need more long-term care. These are the same programs, they're just named differently. Ticket to Work. Anyone who actually is on SSI or SSDI is eligible for a ticket. These tickets can actually be utilized for employment services. The employment networks are networks that help individuals with disabilities find employment. One can also use it for vocational rehabilitation that may be able to actually put one through school, and or find a different type of career. Um, so there are many different things that they can be used for. Now, one needs to remember two things. One is that your ticket or a ticket can only be assigned to one or the other at a time. You cannot assign your ticket both to an employment network and to a vocational rehabilitation. It's also very important for the individual to figure out what it is that they're looking for, because not all employment networks are the same. Some do part-time work, some do full-time work. So it just depends on what the individual is looking for and what that employment network has to offer. Social Security is very confusing. There is a website. It is called Arizona Disability Benefits 101. It is a very user-friendly online tool. What I like to consider it as a Google for individuals that have disabilities. Sometimes we think, oh, where am I going to find a resource? One could go on DB 101 and just go into the search bar and type in what you're looking for. It will help an individual just go through some of the confusion that is Social Security. They have all kinds of online tools and resources. They even have estimators. So if an individual is wondering, well, I'm getting SNAP, food stamps, and I have a Section 8 voucher. How is income going to affect me? This can help the individual at least try to figure that out, if not coming to us and having us help the individual through it. And it does actually help a person to transition to independent living because it eases some of those fears and some of the misconceptions without having to go through these long programs to figure out what's going on. So my program, Benefits to Work, it is Work Incentive Planning and Assistance, or WIPA. These are managed by Ability 360, and we support Social Security beneficiaries as they're trying to transition to work, or if they're just thinking about going back to work, but are actually apprehensive about it. We are community work incentive coordinators, and we are certified to understand the rules of Social Security. We are all trained by Virginia Commonwealth University, and we continue education yearly. We offer personalized services that are actually tailored to the specific situation and needs of individuals. We are all different in our disability, and we are all unique in our situations. And this is a big reason why we do this. These services are for free. The biggest prerequisite is that somebody that wants services be actively on Social Security disability benefits. Now, although this says eligibility requirements, we do sign up just everyone that is on Social Security. These are more priority because if you think that a person has gone back to work and they're using their trial work period, that would be at that point, because they're using one of the work incentives, it's important to serve these individuals first because they're more at risk of doing something that they don't know they shouldn't be doing. So the priorities are currently working, had an interview, within the last 30 days or will have an interview within 60 days is self-employed or planning self-employment, individuals that are veterans, youth, which under Social Security is 14 to 26, or individuals receiving services from vocational rehabilitation or employment networks or mental health services. So as you can see, we pretty much accept everyone from ages 14 to ages 64. When trying to enroll, one can actually call the Ticket to Work helpline at 866-968-7842, or one can log on to choosework.ssa.gov. One can also call Benefits to Work directly. You can contact us 602-443-0720 or 1-866-304-9675. You can also email us at b2w@ability360.org. That email is actually managed by me personally, so that will come directly to me, and I can and will most definitely reply to you. Oh, sorry about that. So anyone that calls will actually go through an intake line. We are not a call center. This line is managed by one individual only. So the intake specialist will actually field all inquiries and assess what type of services the consumer may need. Sometimes we will get phone calls where individuals just want answers. And, I do want to tell you that there's times where sometimes you can ask someone at Social Security a question and get one answer, and call and get someone else on the line the next day and get a completely different answer. What I can tell you about Benefits to Work WIPA program is that each and every CWIC, including myself, you will find that will give you the same answers time and time again. And we pride ourselves in making sure that we do a lot of research throughout the year so that we don't jeopardize anyone's benefits. And that is the end of the presentation.
Thank you.
All right, I believe Ruthie has her hand up, so I'm gonna let her go first.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for answering my question that I put in the chat about how you want to take questions. Ruthie Goldcorn, No Barriers Disabled Access Consulting and Advocacy Services. I live in Peoria, relatively new to Arizona, as I previously indicated. And the state services are generally difficult, and thank you to the Ability 360 staff for handling that. I have a couple of questions, and
Sure.
I'll go ahead and ask them, and then you can answer them, and that way it'll be a little quicker. How does the work money that you're now going to be showing as income affect your Section 8 status? And that's number one. Number two, there's now a tuition waiver for community college transfer to a four-year institution. And how does that work for people with disabilities? And can an employer require you to stay on your Medicaid so they don't have to bother paying you your health benefits, because they're an employer that offers healthcare services and health insurance benefits, whether it be an employee contribution or not. And as for work, The workforce development boards and county and state workforce development, they are not interested in us. They never have been, ever. They ignore us. I've had people turn their back on me physically when I've gone to meetings or some kind of an event. They're inaccessible. And NAU is about to open a new one in Mesa. And Mesa said, oh, we wash our hands of that. That's not our thing. It's theirs to run. But where are they putting it in Mesa, and who's making sure that it is accessible? Because you have your Section 504 program access compliance, you have your Title II compliance, and if it's in a private facility, it's Title III. What is being done, or what should we do to get these people to understand that we are potential employees, we are entrepreneurs, and that the workforce development boards were created for this purpose? And one other quick question that just popped into my head. If someone is going to go work for or open their own dispensary, is that a problem? Because marijuana is still illegal under the feds. So if you want to work at a dispensary or you want to be an entrepreneur and open your own, what are the consequences? Ivan, thank you so very much for being here. You're very appreciated.
So as far as Section 8 goes, what I can tell you is that it depends on what type. There's so many different types there, because we do have, there's a 30% reduction. There are waivers. So it depends on what the individual actually has. Okay. You had a lot of questions. The second one, what was the second question? Well, for the last question, what I can tell you is that benefits to work cannot necessarily expand on that. What I can say is that Ability 360's advocacy as a whole, my VP is actually the one that does that type of area, which has to do with laws and bills that are being put through. I think that's better answered by someone such as her. Ruth, please remind me of another question that you had for me.
The college tuition for transferring from community college, the tuition waiver, and how does that come into play? Because that can be construed as a benefit, a financial gain. So I didn't know if that is considered. And my other question was about requiring you to stay on Medicaid if you work for a company that offers health benefits.
Okay,
Thank you.
so as far as the college tuition, that also depends on whether you're on SSI or SSDI, because that's going to be the breaker. Because remember, with SSI, because it's needs based, one is supposed to go ahead and spend it down and not just keep it sitting in the bank. So when you're talking about SSI, this would mean that they can go ahead and prepay for a lot of their courses, and it won't be considered income. And remember that for both programs, their cash benefit is not considered income at all. So it will not affect their benefits, because it's only when you're talking about SSDI, they're only talking about earned income. This is not earned income. Also, for the Medicaid portion, they only count for access freedom to work. They only count earned income, not income of other types. There was one more question. Oh, okay. Employer-sponsored health coverage. All right. An individual that is on SSDI that is working full-time, okay, or working, does not have to take their employer-sponsored health coverage. They can keep their Medicare and they can keep their Access Medicaid. All right. Now, with SSI, because it's need-based and the person is getting the Medicare, the Medicaid, not through their own work history, but as a means based, that can affect their Medicaid. Now, it's very important for the individual to remember, especially on Medicare, that after that 93-month period, they will have to pay for their Part A. And I don't mind self-disclosing at this point. As of tomorrow, I will no longer be, because I've gone through the whole SSDI. I went through the 9-month trial work period, extended period of eligibility, and I've been working since 2014, but my 93 months is actually up on Sunday, which is the end of April. So I decided, because it was more beneficial and less expensive for me to not pay for my Part A and my Part B. It was more beneficial and more cost effective for me to switch over at this point to my employer sponsored health coverage, which would be about $2,500 less per year. So I hope that answers your question, because it depends on the individual. I know that not all employers' health coverages are the same. I can tell you Ability 360s is, because they are an organization that is primarily like 60 to 70% of the workforce actually have disabilities. So it just depends on what your employer sponsored health coverage is. And it just so happens that this is more advantageous for me at this point in my life. So I guess to answer your question, yeah, the individual does not have to use employer sponsored health coverage.
Well, and the other part of my question is because we know that employers are so fond of blackmailing employees, especially people with disabilities and other vulnerable populations. Can they force us to have to maintain that, even though we know it would be better to have their coverage, whether it's a PPO or an HMO, or
Nope.
it's a better option. They cannot force us to do that, correct?
No, correct. You have to
Okay.
remember too
Thank
that
you.
one must remember about something, just for the information, for giving information for the individuals that are sitting here today, that if one has Medicare or Medicaid or both, you cannot have a HSA account. You cannot maintain one. So that's a big difference. That's something that people need to know too. So it would be considered double dipping, and the federal laws actually do not permit it, because you're using pre-tax dollars for actually to fund that HSA. And because you're on public service, so to speak, Medicare and Medicaid, then they would consider it double dipping. I don't know if we had any more questions.
Sorry, Pablo, I'm sorry about mentioning that name, but I see your hand up, so you can, Paulina, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I do have a questions about the what he said, like talking about SSI, SSDI, Medicaid, and Medicare. How does offer letter also come and play?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Oh, I'm sorry. How does offer letter come and help us for people with individual with other abilities or disability to want to start to work?
I still did not understand. My apologies.
It's okay. How does people like me, as a disability person, want to start to work, but how does offer letter help us?
What is offer letter?
it's like a offer letter is like a signed document. And how does a signed document help people with individual other abilities to get to start to work?
When you're talking about a signed document, what signed document are you speaking of?
Ah, it's like when you start to work on, if you sign, okay, I'm sorry. I don't know where I'm going with this, but with all these SSI and SDI, if people want to work, how do you sign a correct document?
To start getting services from us or to find a job?
To find a job?
Are you talking about going through an employment network to find a job?
Yes.
Okay, so the employment networks, they have different employers that are actually looking for people with disabilities. So if you actually go onto the choose work.ssa.gov, you will see a list of all the employment networks that are under Social Security or that are approved by Social Security.
Thank you for answering that question. And how do we get more information if I want to join the 360? Like your program?
Hold on one second. Let me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the telephone number down in the chat. And pretty much all you'd have to do is call us. And what happens at that point is our intake specialist will take your information. You will get an application pack. When that application pack is returned to us, we will then assign you one particular coordinator that will begin to work with you personally.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Other questions?
I don't see any. Well, thank you, Ivan, for that wonderful presentation. Now you guys got lunch until 1:15, so you can come back and enjoy some more breakout sessions.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Have a wonderful afternoon. And thank you, Jason.
Anytime. I'm always here.
Take care, everyone.
All right, everybody, welcome to using your voice to build capacity to include people with IDD and health related research. I'm your moderator for this session, Jason. I will be putting a link in the chat for those who want to use closed captioning. If you want to use the ASL interpreters, please pin them to your screen. And that's all I got. So I'll turn it over to, I'm not sure who's starting, but
Hey, hi, Jason. Thank you so much for having us. And so we do have a bigger team, and I think a few of our team are still trickling in. So I'm not the presenter for all, but I'm just going to go over the title. So building capacity to include people with IDD and health-related research. So this is project overview. And also what we are doing together as a team of professionals and self-advocates and family advocates. And we are from Sonoran, you said, PCORI project team. and the visual showing the 15 different people, different kinds of people with a disability, without disability, or maybe different backgrounds of people are on the picture. I just try to describe it well, but I don't do well, sorry, but I will try my best. Okay. So this project, Susie will follow me up with the team. So we're going to introduce our team, but what is this project about? So the project is about to find important areas and health area for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And in those areas, we try to find a researcher and work together to find a way those researchers to adapt their research inclusive to the IDD population. And why are we doing this? So people with IDD are often not included in health research and health data due to many reasons. Pre-assumption that the capacity of people with IDD, historical trauma, fear of professional understanding and working with people with IDD. So maybe some hesitancy from the IDD community or professionals' misunderstanding. And this means that the concerns and issue of people with IDD may not be reflected in policies and community programs and services and access. So this is a big challenge for the IDD community because we have less access to different kinds of services, and different kinds of services may not be applicable or easy access for us. So our goal is to work together with advocates and professionals to educate health researchers and university staff on how to conduct inclusive health research. So that's our goal of our study. And I may kind of to cut one of the slide and talking about who we are. And we are from Sonoran Center in Disabilities. And we are part of the 67 federally designated Center on Disabilities. So we provide service, connection, resources, so we can help inform advocates, family members, organizations, and policymakers who concerns the lives of people with IDD. So this is our team member, and Susie will introduce all of us. Thank you, Susie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susie. So on the screen, to describe to you, it's just how we met and how we discuss on Zoom, and it has a picture of all of our members. We are made up of a team from University of Arizona Health Research. In addition, we have self-advocates and a couple of parent advocates on here also. And I don't know if all of our people are on the screen to wave at you, but they are here. If you're there, if you could just give a quick wave out to everybody. And see, Yumi's now going to the next screen, I believe. There we go. Oops, give me 1 second, sorry. So,
Yumi, do presenter view and do display settings and presenter view.
give us 1 second. So our members are comprised of the core team, which is who we just showed you, and stakeholder groups. We also have other members, the Sonoran UC ADD, so faculty and staff, the UA Institutional Review Board, the IRB, University of Wisconsin. We have Dr. Carla, and I know I'm going to butcher her name. I'll let you guys read it. Pastor, I could see Julie mouthing it for me.
Osterau.
Thank you. Special Olympics of Arizona, National Down Syndrome Society, Arizona Disabilities Planning Council, American Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, Southwest Autism Research and Resource Center, ASU.
Thank you, Susie. And then, do you mind to explain who you are? Because I did not do that. And I think it would be good to say who you are.
So my name is Susie Teray. I'm one of the members of the research team. I'm helping out. I'm a parent advocate.
Wonderful. And I'm Yumi. And sorry, I'm a staff at the Surround Center. I'm an affiliated faculty. Okay. And this slide is for Michael, if Michael is on, or we.
Michael has been having some technical difficulties, but I think that he might be coming in right now.
So you want,
maybe I'll just take this slide.
oh, you want to go?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. So I'll take my slide and then Michael will come back in. So the goal of this project is to work together, advocates and professionals. So as you know, self-advocates are experts with lived experiences, and family and caregiver advocates provide support and information about how the systems of care work. And then professionals are educated in their special areas and have access to additional resources. So those might be resources at the university, or might be resources that they have in terms of special training. So we believe that working together with advocates and professionals, we can be successful in including people with IDD in health research. And is that Michael on the phone?
This is Monica Cooper.
Ah, okay. Hi, Monica. We thought you
Hi.
were Michael, but
That's okay. I had trouble this morning, but I'm here.
oh, good. Which we welcome to the session.
Yes.
Yumi, I think that Michael might be unable to connect. He said that there was some internet work in his neighborhood. So I'll deliver his slide, if that's okay. So Michael wanted to talk to you all about why we encourage everyone on our core team, which Susie shared with you. She shared with you a picture of from Zoom of all of us during a meeting. So we encourage everyone on our core team to attend and participate, because we each bring different experiences, and these experiences shape the way we think and what we bring to our conversations. And so when we share what we think, it helps people understand better, but it also makes our projects better. It makes our thinking better. And importantly, we each bring different perspectives, and we look at life differently and from different places and roles. So when we share our perspective, it helps others see things differently. And so there's a picture here of a 6 or a 9. It depends on how you look at it. For one person, it looks like a 6. And then for the other person, it looks like a 9. And then there's a picture also on this slide that shows our different experiences and what we bring to our meetings. We may have families. We may have certain accomplishments and trainings. We have certain likes or dislikes. And we bring all of that to our meetings.
Claire, would you like to share?
So, what is a health story? A health story answers questions about who you are. It explains what is important to you about your health, and it includes pictures to help others understand your story better. like some examples of health related things you might talk about in your health story are heart disease, diabetes, epilepsy or seizures, or if you have a history of any of those things, or if you have family who's had any of those things. And health stories can be shared with your doctors, policymakers, researchers, peers, and communities to help them understand what's important about your health.
So, thank you so much, Claire. Riley, go ahead. You have a question?
Well, it's a little bit of a statement.
Mhm.
I did not get diagnosed with ASD until I was, 2, but I kind of have discovered that women don't get diagnosed until later on in life, which is sadly the case. Some till be 9 years old or even in adult life. And it can it can happen to men or it can happen to anyone at any time in any stage. Or sometimes people misdiagnose them. Oh, maybe they mask it, which sometimes can happen. I don't know. Maybe it's the child.
That's because the traditional autistic traits that are often in medical books were based on cis men, and other presentations tend to get overlooked.
Mm-hmm. Or misdiagnosed as something else, which is what doctors and sometimes nurses, not all nurses and not all doctors do, but some of them tend to do that. Like when you say get a physical injury or something's wrong within your body, but then they say, oh, you're that, but that's not the case. Something's wrong and you need answers, but they're not looking into it. They're just completely looking the other way.
Yeah, that's a great input, both Riley and Claire, because I think it's why is it important to even practice the health story to share, right? Because then we have a way of the clinician or other people to understand what your experience, and then with the professional knowledge, they be able to help. But then if they cannot listen to you, and it's harder to help, right, to figure out what it is. So that is a great point. Thank you. And then health stories, we have a few examples. Oh, go ahead, Riley.
And listening is just as important as hearing someone. And it really is often overlooked in our modern society because listening versus hearing, I learned that the hard way after kind of getting a cold in February because I had to listen and preserve my voice and listen to more people more than having me talk. And I kind of had to put myself in people's shoes because some people I heard a woman who uses technology to speak, who graduates at some college, and she is a remarkable woman. I forgot what her name was, but
you have a great point. The listening is very difficult, and we often forget or need to be attentive to listen. And thank you. So
you can have hyper awareness of your surroundings.
Yeah. So we have a few health stories by our team. And we do have a few folks who couldn't be here today. And Susie, is it okay for you to share our team member Sarah's story?
So I am reading Sarah's story. It is written in first person. So Sarah shared with us, and she said, it reads, my name is Sarah, and I'm 52 years old. My favorite health activities are hiking and cycling. I have a lot to deal with my health. I have multiple lesser known conditions that most providers are unfamiliar with. These conditions include Ehlers-Danlos, MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, posterior orthostatic trachycardia syndrome. Sorry, I think I said that wrong. And CIRS, chronic inflamed response syndrome. I've also been diagnosed with endometriosis in the past and have irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. I also deal with anxiety, depression, PTSD, and I am autistic. These conditions, along with ADHD, run in my family. Because the conditions mentioned above commonly co-occur, it's important that researchers and providers consider the overlap between these conditions and their effect conditions across human body systems. It's also really important for researchers and providers to believe to the lived experiences of patients. I was told my issues were all in my head for years until I found providers who were familiar with these lesser known conditions. In Ehlers-Danlos syndrome community, we have a saying, don't confuse one slide you saw about my condition and medical school with my years of living with the condition. Medical professionals need to partner with us rather than dismiss us. They need to learn to listen, ask questions, be curious rather than discount, dismiss, and gaslight. They need more opportunities to continue learning about conditions and treatments after medical school. Thank you. That was really good. I really loved her part about saying the lived conditions. It goes back to Riley's point.
Thank you.
Really, thank you so much for we assigned this for Susie, and it has a lot of acronyms and difficult pronunciation, but that's really captures what Riley said, like Susie said, and then also it's important to work together as a team. That's really and the listening part. So thank you so much. And I see our team, Madison.
Hi.
Do you have any reflection? I know you have been a bit not feeling well, so we haven't really prepared for you, but do you have any health stories you want to share, or you want to just share some reflection, or you want to say hi to everybody?
That's a lot of choices. I'd rather say hi to everyone, because I feel more comfortable about that.
Okay, sounds good, Madison.
So hi everyone, my name is Madison, and I'm part of the Bikori team.
Welcome.
Yeah,
so okay. Sorry, anything that you wanted to say?
No, I'm pretty much good.
All right. And then the next one, so what could researchers learn about health care for disabled people? So do you have any thoughts? Sorry to put the names on, but doesn't have to be Claire or anyone else, but any of the team or anyone who is joining us can kind of share what could a researcher learn about healthcare for disabled people. If you see something from, Sarah's example or what Rayleigh shared, go ahead, Claire.
They need to learn how to make healthcare accessible to disabled people. Whether that be making the physical doctor's office accessible or providing multiple options for communication. And going off of the lived experience point, we should, doctors and researchers and everyone should diversify who they learn from, like different types of disabled people, like disabled people with different races or multiple disabilities, or who are LGBTQIA plus.
Thank you. Rayleigh?
When it comes to motherhood, people of color, even with the neurodivergence community, don't get enough quality or care that they need versus people who are not other. I mean, of course they do versus women, and sometimes men do, but they just kind of get turned away depending whether they're part of the LGBTQIA plus community, or they say they need this, or they just get the opposite of what they exactly have told the person oh, we'll get you what you need. But it takes hours and hours of waiting and still no results. And you still get put on hold for months or years, demanding answers, trying not to be poking the bear or trying not to be the B word. That's what I learned recently, trying not to be the B word. I don't want to use it. It's kind of what I learned. When you're trying to demand answers of why are they taking so long with the system, the medical system, with nurses, doctors. I respect nurses trying to fight for their rights, but when it comes to certain nurses just not doing their job of getting quality care to certain people of the neurodivergence community, even with people of color, and even with indigenous tribes not getting enough quality in their nation, within the nation, it just isn't right. It just doesn't sit well with me at all. Even with women at all, especially.
Yeah, thank you so much for your sharing and passion too. And I just have a curiosity. Do you have any idea, Claire said to make the office more accessible. Do you have any idea to what they can do or what maybe different idea to make offices a bit more accessible or places more accessible?
I'm speaking from an autistic perspective, but make sure it's sensory friendly or have maybe like a sensory space with STEM tools.
Yeah, that's a great idea. It's a little change, but make it accessible easier. Maybe we need to advocate to consult all the offices to going around. That can be a fun project to do. Okay, any other thoughts?
Michael shared, as I said, Michael can't connect right now, but he shared the need to improve physical access. And so building on what Claire just shared, making space for within the waiting room so that, wheelchairs, people with mobility devices can be comfortable in the waiting room. And he also shared the need for improved transportation, particularly for people with mobility devices.
Thank you for connecting with Michael virtually, and that's very helpful. And thank you, because Michael has a lot to share. And one of the stories that I remember, that accessible physicians, when in case of emergency that need the immediate referral for specialist or something, the clinician availability, those sincereness and also commitment to support the family, that's really important. And I think that was very critical if you have multiple health conditions, and the availability of the clinician give not just the physical support, but then it provide emotional support too. So that's really important. Thank you, Julie, for holding this together. Okay. For the next story, is what should researchers do to include disabled people in research? It's a kind of sharing with Julie and Jeff and Jack. So Jeff and Jack will join by video. But so Julie is our faculty and the co-lead of this project and teamed up with Jeff. And they made the research kind of training accessible to our core team, so we all can learn about research. And so Julie can maybe share a bit about the background, or you want me to run the video first?
I can share a little bit about the background.
Mm-hmm.
So our core team is all involved. They're members of the research team. So the university requires that we all get trained in how to do research to benefit people without harm. And so that training is pretty long, and it's also not accessible to people outside the university. So we put together a training that involved some information that was especially relevant to our group, and really learned from one another. And people shared their experiences and their knowledge about research. And so maybe play the video. Yumi, this seems like a good time to do that.
Okay, see if I can do it correctly.
I have it up if you're not able to.
Okay, please do so because
I will play it.
okay.
Okay, share sound. There's Jeff. Here we go.
Thank you very much, Jeff and Jack. We wanted to just share some of our experience, researcher and the self-advocates working together on this project. So I want to share one of the material that Jeff made and for our training material. So Jeff, do you mind to talk about what is this and how you made this slide and training material?
Sure. So Dr. Julie Arman and I were responsible for creating this training module, and we recognize that some of these research topics and subjects can be complicated, and the language can make them even more complicated. So the idea was to kind of just simplify a complex idea into something that's attainable for anybody. So we figured, why not do something that would be a little bit fun also? So we know some people in our group like Mario. I'm a big fan of Mario. Just watched the movie. It was really good. And we just kind of went through a research study that is correlated to what something like Mario would go through. So we took every step of, a possible informed Mario session and just kind of put it into language that everyone can understand in a situation that makes it easy to understand and translate into regular health research.
Great. And Jack, how did you feel like when you were taking the class with Jeff on this training? How did you feel like learning about it? And then also, how was it like for you?
I really like it because I grew up playing Mario Brothers, and I cracked up a couple of times, and I really liked it.
And then were you able to understand the content of the training?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. And how is it like working together as a team, both of you?
I like hanging out with Jeff, and it's really fun.
I do too. Yeah, it's been fun getting to know Jack and the rest of our team, and it's really just refreshing to see all the different perspectives that this group can bring to the table.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie. And I know that we are kind of moving forward nicely, so I wanted to see if I saw the Patricia's note, and I cannot see everybody in the screen yet. Patricia, you said you are a professional as well as a self-advocate, and I think that's another perspective that can bring into a team. And what is it like for you as a self-advocate and a professional working in the work field?
Well, I think it's a different perspective, I would say, because
Can you hear?
I think we lost Patricia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for confirming, Jason. I wasn't sure if I was frozen or if everybody else was.
Yeah. Sorry, Patricia, we couldn't hear. We got frozen. So when you're back, we'd love to hear about your experience and your thoughts on this, because I think it's really unique and important. While we are waiting, Patricia, to be back, anyone else want to share? Working with professionals, a different, group of people, or a combination of advocacy and the professional, or can be students and future professional and advocates and professionals. No. So I kind of have a thought, like the self-advocate kind of this conference, listening advocacy training, and it's all about how you share your personal stories. And I love the perspective of sharing personal stories because it makes it more accessible, because it's an individual story everybody can do. And often professionals forget about the individual stories because we're more focusing on aggregated, meaning group it together. Then we forget about the individual stories. And another part that it kind of enlightened me is expanding the network and the connection. So that's also important of advocacy. And I really, that part of advocacy this morning, I learned, and I need to include that in our work as well. And I can see those part in our activity, sharing individual stories and different perspectives, but we make more connections with others. So we learn and we connect it with more resources and information. So that was kind of my quick reflection from the morning session. I hope Patricia would come back before our session ends. Go ahead, Julie.
Oh, Patricia's back.
Oh, Patricia, let's let Patricia go if she can speak. Okay, I'll just say a few words, my own reflections, and then when Patricia makes it back, I'm happy to turn it over to Patricia. But as a researcher, I'm reminded every time we have our meetings that research is not very good if you are not hearing from the people who are the subject of the research. So it's not very good if you're not getting an understanding of the lived experience of people and working with them to understand their stories. So I think for me that has really been a wonderful part of this project, working together. And self-advocates and family members educating me, and me sharing my perspective as well as a researcher, maybe showing the potential value of research, sharing the potential value of research for others.
I think Patricia's back now, so I don't know if she wants to share.
Patricia, are you back?
Maybe not.
Well, we're just having some internet issues today. It's so funny and strange.
I know it is. Yeah, we still have some time, but we can ask Freya to go over how, if you are interested in, and Lady already participated, and I'm so grateful. Go ahead, Freya.
So we'd love to have more people involved in this project. As Dr. Shirai and Dr. Armin were talking about, that's how we make sure that our research is quality and that we're including all voices. So we'd love to have you join us in a listening session or future surveys. All you need to do is fill out this registration form and we'll be in touch with you. Or you can scan this QR code and we'll get in touch with you through that way too. It's in the chat now to make it easier.
Patricia's back.
Patricia, while people are looking at the QR code and maybe looking at the registration information, would you like to share what you were thinking about, being a professional and an advocate, self-advocate? Also in the chat might be a good place for sharing as well.
Yeah, we still cannot hear you, Patricia. Somehow the connection today is not good. Mm-mm. The setting seems to be okay, but we just cannot hear your voice. You want to put in a chat? I cannot do well in the chat, so it's easier to talk, but Patricia is reconnecting.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yay.
Okay. I had to go and rejoin again. So, okay. So, the interesting thing, I'm a recreation therapist. So, I do work with people with disabilities. And so there are times when that's the fact that I'm a person with a disability is beneficial in that they understand that I understand their perspective when I'm talking to so sometimes they'll talk to me about things because they know I understand what it's like. And so but an interesting thing is setting boundaries with that too is important. It's sometimes a hard thing to do because you feel very familiar.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, how do you do that?
Yes. You just have to make it very clear that, okay, because they feel comfortable, like they want to be able to call you at home or text you and stuff. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I have to keep professional and so also I think sometimes I still have some, because of having grown up with a disability, I sometimes second guess myself in the process and like don't have as much self self-confidence in myself sometimes because I expect other people to expect to be treated differently. I expect not to be expected of. And so when I'm being in a position of having the education and having having the degree and having the title, I find it sometimes hard to take that power. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do understand that part. I mean, I have a different perspective, but I can see how that can be.
Because I'm so used to being not expected of. And so when people, by the same token, I take a lot of things more personally sometimes, because if they do not show me as much respect as I want to have, then I think it must be because of my disability, you know, and so I take that personally. I'm like, I want to be treated with the respect of my position, you know. And so it's frustrating. So when things happen, so I unfortunately got fired recently in November, and they fired our whole staff, and our whole staff that had been there for a long time. So a lot of those folks got other jobs. It's harder for me because I all of a sudden am thinking that's proving to me that I can't do it, you know. And so I don't know. Are you there?
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing, you know, the challenges as well as the benefit of what it is. And
so there is those challenges, but by the same token, I know what my field is, but I tend to second. I think it's just I call it taking that personal power, and it's hard to do that, you know. For me, it's hard to assume that power for me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. And then Julie has hands up. I think the question or comments for Patricia.
I have a question for Patricia or for others. I really appreciated you saying it's hard to take your, you know, personal power, Patricia. How do you do that? When you do it.
When I do it, yeah. Things like, you know, I think I'm still learning that, to be honest with you, because this has risen to a place I hadn't. It took me a lot of years to get this degree and to get this certification, and so, you know, it's still getting out of my own barriers and my own mindsets, but I think it has a lot to do with communicating. I think communicating with my coworkers and with people, so that if there's something that I'm thinking, it's something that I'm treated differently. If I talk to another coworker and she's feeling the same way and she's not a person with a disability, then that kind of helps me feel like, okay, it's not just me then. You know. So I think it's a work in progress for me. But I think in the long run, it's a matter of communication and just pushing through it, you know. Keep asserting the fact that, hey, I know what I'm doing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that so I think it sounds like what you're talking about is something that was discussed earlier, the need to, like connect. And you're talking about communicating with others to try and get a beat on what your experience is and whether others are sharing it. And that helps you act. And I was thinking about my own experience. I have more recent hearing loss. So this is not something I was born with, but I have to really, like, I was thinking as you were talking, like stepping into that power. I don't, everyone here has probably, everyone who is hearing here is probably used to being in a room with people, a big group of people, and having someone say, "Oh, I don't need to use the microphone. I have a loud voice." And whenever I hear that, I used to think when someone said, "I have a loud voice," I used to think, "Oh my gosh, I hope they're going to speak loud enough so that I can actually hear them." And now, like stepping into that power, talking to people about, being aware of like using the microphone as an access issue. Like I'm not the only one who has hearing loss, right? And stepping into that power so that I now will say, no, can you please use the microphone? Please use the microphone. And so, no, I really, that really speaks to me, and the importance of connecting and understanding shared experience is really important.
Because my coworkers don't know what I need unless I ask for it too,
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, and then having sharing space, sharing space is so important. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Any other folks have some reflection or thoughts around what we hear or what we discussed? Working with people with different backgrounds, professionals, people with disabilities or disabled individuals, family members, advocates, kind of intersection of both professionals and disability combined too. That's another perspective that Patricia shared. So just, one more time sharing the screen. So if you want to join our conversation, so this is the way you can join us, to just register your through the QR code, the link. Then our team will contact you to listen to more of your health concerns, or we may have some surveys for gathering more information. And just reminding again that Susie kind of reminded me, as we work as a team, what is the end product, right? So overall, what we like to achieve with our project is to connect with the health researchers who typically do not, just maybe not aware or not work with the population with disabilities, but they have a potential to include us in our project, in their project. So we really, as a team, want to help them able to include people with disability in their project or study, health study and research. So which is important to our community. So thank you so much, Julie and our team, Madison, Susie, Priya, Claire. Anything else to add?
Well, thank you guys for presenting. It was very informative and very good. Now we have a break until let's see, until 2:15 to 2:25, and then we're gonna have a self-evaluation group presentation So don't miss that. It should be good. From all the cell-validated groups here in Arizona. So until then, thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you next time at the next cell-validated conference. So